everybody. Welcome to another edition of Get It, Got It Good. I am your host, Najwa High Carter. And today, you guys, I'm so excited because I am talking to Ernest Owens, an award-winning, multi-talented, multifaceted journalist. So let me ask you a question. Because, when I think of journalism, I'm thinking of my days at College Park, going and writing all of this stuff, and it wasn't for me. And lo and behold, I'm a host. How did you actually go and decide, okay, this is what I want to do, this is who I want to be? Did you actually intentionally go to school and say this, or did you fall into it somehow?
Yeah, I think naturally, I started off interested in public service, politics, and that type of arena, law school. Those are my early ambitions. And what I found most is that everything that I was doing was somehow connected to media and communications. And so I was a communications major at the University of Pennsylvania, and I was focusing on public service and that type of form of communication. But through there, media studies and journalism, played a critical role in my interest. And I kind of, I guess, fell into it naturally because journalism, for me, allowed me to open up my various talents. Like, I love public speaking, I love writing, I love doing all types of technological recording and editing and all these different things. And I felt like journalism combined all of my passions and talents into one place. And so that is why I ended up pursuing journalism full time.
So that's yeah, it's crazy for me because here's why. You wanted to be, politics, community, and then it goes to journalism. And I'm thinking, that connection would be more of telling your story, which is what we do, through our words, spoken words, right? Whereas politics is more about word play and telling a narrative that you want to be told. So then when you went into writing, did you then use that platform to expose or tell a narrative that was, the truth per se from your perspective?
Yeah, I think for me, journalism was an opportunity to do two things. So I've done a lot of work as a columnist. So I write a lot of opinion pieces and commentary that is based on my take on the issues in the world. And so this gives me a voice in the editorial space to have an opinion. Reported pieces, I've done some reported work where I'm going out and I'm interviewing people. My opinions don't matter, of course, in reported pieces. It's more about just giving people the information, the facts. And so throughout my career, I've kind of been a chameleon and going through various types of media platforms and styles.
Yeah.
So for example, I've done work around multimedia stuff. I've done broadcasting work. I've done just general writing, print media, multimedia, social media, all of these different types of platforms to, eventually tell a story, convey a message, really get the audience to think. And I tell people that it's many ways to carve a turkey, in the same way there's many different ways to tell a story. And for me, I've had fun over the years of my career, which has been over a decade now, being able to move all of these different elements of technology and also storytelling to try to, maximize the impact of a story. And that's been what's been driving me to this day.
So do you have a favorite,
It's interesting. I would say that print, maybe writing has been my favorite because I believe that none of this can happen without writing. Writing, I feel like, is the instrumental part, the actual written form. You don't get scripts on TV and on air without writing. You don't get any coding or anything without the written form. Like, there has to be a story. Someone has to articulate it through writing. There has to be a script. There has to be an outline. And so I think writing is the fundamental basis. And I think that behind everything that you see visually, through audio, there is someone who has to write out a plan and has to write out a narrative. And that's been my favorite format because I do feel like it's at the core and the crux of all the storytelling. So I do broadcast, I do podcasting, which I love, but my podcasting is rooted in an outline, in a story, in sitting down and writing out things and ideas and planning. And so just the written format, I just think is still powerful. And I think also reading words, when a person has to put thought behind what they write, that carries a level of weight It's nothing like reading a letter versus just someone simply going in front of a screen talking. Both have power and conviction. Seeing emotion and body expression is also powerful. Sometimes studying a person's voice and hearing the cadence and things and not actually seeing them allow us to also see ourselves in a way that audio and broadcasting do. There's something unique and valuable all of these platforms, but I just think that writing takes everything back to the basics, and regardless of whatever comes and goes, the written format is here to stay. So I think I lean more to print above everything else.
Yeah, I mean, as a reader, I can tell people all of the time, most of the time, books are better than an actual movie because it allows you to put yourself in the situation and visualize it the way you see. But you also stated 10 years in the game now. But before we get into that, you guys, we got to take a break because that 10 years led to things like Forbes and awards and everything else. So you guys, stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, you guys. If you are just joining us, I have the pleasure of talking to Ernest Owens. Now, I got a question for you. When you first started, did you see or did you envision yourself getting some of the accolades that you've gotten or being on a Forbes 30 under 30, you know, a list or I should say under 30 list? Yeah. Did you see any of
that? I mean, to me, I felt like those were always goals. Those were always things that I know would have been a lovely opportunity or something to envision. It didn't drive my focus on doing the work, but it was always that thing in the back of my mind of wouldn't it be nice for that to happen? But I was always, really head down and continue to be focused on the work itself. I get excited about actually publishing a piece. To this day, I get, in the digital sense, people say when they open a newspaper and see their work, now where everything's mostly digital, but when I get that hyperlink that my article's live and that other people can be able to consume it and see it, that just does something to me. And that, seeing my byline on something gives me the thrill and the excitement of knowing that my voice is out there. And so that's the real joy that I get on a regular basis. But awards and recognition, it just takes it over the top. It's like the cherry on top, the whipped cream. And, in recent years, I've definitely have begun to amass many awards. When I started off in the industry, I was just in a space of like, I just want to get read. I want to get paid for my writing.
Right.
But now I'm fortunate that, being paid is expected by default. And now the things of awards and those celebratory things are now bonuses to what has been a very lucrative career.
So starting off, what was your first gig? And then from that, what was your moment of, wow, I'm here, I made it, I'm getting read?
Yeah, well, I mean, paid gig, I would say, because I mean, there's been some interesting moments in my career. So college-wise, in 2010, I started doing radio, had a radio show called Ernest Speaking, which is now the name of my podcast. That was in 2010. 2011, 10 years ago, I started my column, The Ernest Opinion for the Daily Pennsylvanian, which is a college column. 2012, Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, now HuffPost, gave me an opportunity, a lifetime to write for them after winning an essay contest in college. And so I got national exposure for writing these, what they didn't call them think pieces back then, but that's pretty much what I was doing in different sections of HuffPost when there was Black voices, gay voices, all the different voices sections, opinion sections they had. So I was doing a lot of contributor work for them while I was in college. My big, I guess, professional opportunity was actually terrible. I was a fellow that was working my way to being an editor-in-chief of a startup magazine that was supposed to be focused on small businesses. And I would look at it like it has been the Forbes of like urban small businesses. That was like the vibe of it. And I thought it was an incredible concept. but I was working with someone who did not have any formal education and skills in journalism or publishing or anything like that. And basically I was getting exploited. I never got paid for my work, even though I did everything from building it up. I never got paid. And I ended up having to like leave because it was hurting me financially, and I had to leave and work for a corporation that I mean, everyone else was excited about it, but I was like, this isn't me. But I did that because that was what needed to keep the lights on, keep the bills paid. I pivoted, which people thought was crazy, worked for a free paper in the city called Metro, which is located in Philadelphia, Boston, New York. And I was writing, you know, a couple of like $100 a piece op-eds for Metro. And well, first I was doing like general reporting, then I started writing a column there that I got to call the Ernest Opinion, which was in reference to my college column. So that was like a real full circle moment. But I guess my big breakthrough really came when I became the LGBTQ editor of Philadelphia Magazine 5 years ago in 2016. And from there, that's when I was in a space where I was really working with some top tier editors. I was really working with a team that wanted to let me experiment with my writing style. I was doing short form, long form, reported pieces, opinion pieces, personal narratives, essays. And that's when the work began to evolve. And that's when I started getting national recognition and awards. I won the next year in 2017, Emerging Journalist of the Year by the National Association of Black Journalists. I won awards from the American Magazine Editors Association. So many, Forbes 30 Under 30, NABJ Awards, SBJ Awards, Sigma Delta Chi Awards. I just won a bunch of stuff as my work, but I was working with a really great team and still am. I'm now the editor at large there. I got promoted several times over to editor at large. And now I'm in a space where I'm able to just be able to have an expressive, creative voice where I can write about all types of subject matter and just have the full maturity and the backing of the team. And since then, I've done some freelance work at the New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, BET, the list goes on. But those were, I would say 2016 was a breakout year for me as far as when I really, really felt like I was doing some serious professional journalism that, you know, made the difference.
So it's crazy because you are a creative, you are an artist, and a lot of times artists have to decide what they're going to do to keep the lights on, to feed the family, to do the things. And a lot of times, unfortunately, artists have to make those decisions because that's why they call them starving artists. I'm a dancer, you know, I'm from the dance world. So you got to figure out, okay, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to keep the lights on to my next gig? So I can commend you for that. But it gives you guys an example of some of the choices you make, but you got to stay true to yourself. And when you did the pivot moment and said, okay, I'm going to step back and work for free and do the things that you need to do, you guys, it's not all, it is about money, but it's not always about money. It's also about opportunity, exposure, networking, connecting, and then you level up that way. But you guys, really quick, before I go into this next topic, I want to take another break because I want to come back and talk about that climb, especially with the LGBTQ community, right? And how that played a role in the journey that you're on now. So you guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to WBGR Network, where we are doing some amazing things in the internet media broadcast arena. We would love for you to come visit our state-of-the-art studios and be a part of what we are providing to the world. Contact us today. WBGR Network, where you go, we follow. Call us at 301-429-9247.
Welcome back, you guys. Ernest, thank you for still being here with me. You have undergone like all of these levels to climb to this top of journalism and be known as one of the best. You know, people, you're sought after, right? With that being said, what is that like, especially with this, isn't it Pride Month, right, June?
Yeah, it's Pride Month, yeah.
Yeah, and you are the editor at large, and you represent the LGBTQ community, right? Q community, I forgot the Q, my bad, you guys. What is that like for you? What are the challenges that you've undergone, has it helped or hindered you? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, I think that, anybody from marginalized communities, your experience as a Black woman, my experience as a Black man, as a queer man in the community, I think there's always going to be different obstacles based on, bigots and racists, right? But I think what's more important is, for me, I never let those things personally define me. Like, I never told myself I couldn't do something because I was gay or Black or millennial. I never, spoke that into my existence. I'm very aware and cognizant of what those factors could be, that homophobia does exist in this world, that white supremacy and racism do exist. And I think sometimes when we're in a space of motivation, sometimes the messaging almost treats it as if these things go away because you can ignore them. I'm always aware and cognizant of the world I'm entering in, but I've also learned as a Black person, as a queer person, navigate it in a way that reminds me that what I choose for myself and how I choose to succeed in life, that there's going to always be different factors and barriers and all this, but I have to make sure that I'm guarding myself and guarding my joy and pursuing the things I want regardless. And when I meet those obstacles, confronting them, calling them out, and doing what I can in my own space to abolish them. But I think it's important for any person who's from a marginalized background, whether it's gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, racial identity, religious faith, right? That we cannot, take in those ideas about what our limitations are based on what people project. I know what people think of me or what they can think of me, but I'm also mindful of what I think of myself and how that's more important.
I always say it's not my business what you think of me. It's not my problem what you think of me. That is your issue. It has nothing to do with me. It is what it is. With that being said, I'm also an African-American businesswoman, and I'm in a financial field. I'm in this crazy world where it is a lot of white men, right? Or in the entertainment industry, especially in the music field, because I'm a dancer, where there's a lot of Black men. Either way, it's a lot of men, it's a lot of whatever. You are in the media industry, and we all know that the media industry has a habit of perpetuating African Americans and other marginalized groups in certain light. So do you feel any type of responsibility when it comes to representing when you write, or do you just say, look, this is my voice, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, whether it hurts you or whether you like it or not, I'm just going to be true to me?
Well, I think for myself, my focus is that I'm here to tell the truth. I'm here to tell stories. And that's the first and foremost. I'm here to tell facts, right? What I think is important is that we have to acknowledge that white supremacy and these issues is that we don't attach, like, as a Black journalist, I recognize that there's racism in the newsroom. Racism is in every industry, arts and dance and whatnot. And so when people always pose this question to Black journalists, like, oh, how do you feel about the industry doing X, Y, Z? It's like, well, I'm not that person doing that. Mm-hmm. There are white reporters doing that. They need those questions. They need to be challenged in those things. I mean, there are other issues like homophobia and sexism and other things being perpetuated by everybody in the industry. But when it comes to this issue around race, I feel like Black journalists are always being asked that question on behalf of the community. I don't speak on behalf of the industry. I don't speak on behalf of what other white journalists are doing. I will tell you that with my work, I strive to find nuance. I strive to find balance. I strive to find a truth that is undeniable. And in many ways, sometimes that means that people from various communities, because I come from various experiences, that they can acknowledge that truth and hopefully use that as a way to empower, to challenge, to critique the world around them.
I do find it crazy because here's the thing. When you're talking to a white journalist, a white entertainer, a white singer or something, we don't say, hey, white woman, white man, do you feel the weight of the Caucasian race on your shoulders? Yeah, every time there's a Black person in power in any industry, we're like, how do you feel about representing your race, your cause, your whatever? You are so absolutely right. Now, with that being said, we should ask those questions more to other people. How do you think that all started? Just out of curiosity.
I think that people, representation matters, right, to people, right? Representation is, I would say it's always been an issue, but I would say in integration, like when the country we got the Civil Rights Act of 1964, when you start to see people begin to, there was this idea that racism as we knew at that time, like the Jim Crow South, had dissolved, and that mindset that it wasn't overt in policy, right? The racism never left, but the overtness in policies, some of that, definitely subsided, right? And so you see integrated schools, you start to see more Black people on TV. What happens in that moment is that there is this natural reaction, which makes sense, where community, is finally getting this quote unquote piece of the pie. And there is this pressure to just really push the things that are uplifting or quote unquote positive, which is subjective, depending on who you talk to. And so any type of deviance from that, people felt like that could open up the doors where stereotypes can formulate and people can then be violent. And that kind of thing, I think, really created a culture where folks was not 100% sure on where they would stand on issues. Thinking about it in the sense of like reporting crime. In some sense, people want to know about what's going on in their neighborhood. But then the issue becomes an issue around disproportion. If that's the only time you're seeing Black people on TV is in mugshots, while that may necessarily help solve a crime, who knows? If it's helping to give people information on a crime, yes, this might be necessary. However, if that's the only thing that's being seen, then that becomes a problem. And so for me, I go back to making the case around balance. We need to have a community, we need to have media and journalism in general. And let me be clear, there's a difference between, okay, so media and journalism, right? Journalism is media, but media is not automatically journalism.
Right.
And sometimes people conflate those things. So if they see, some of these bloggers out here, some of these social media accounts and Instagram accounts that put out this unvetted information, photos that are doctored, memes, all of this stuff, this mass media, media is information, period. That's all media is information. Journalism is information or media that's been vetted, that's been fact checked, that's supposed to have a level of ethics. And so there's a higher standard. I think the problem is people are asking for these standards for things that are not journalism. And I think people don't really know, has lost track of what journalism is. And that's not the fault of the consumers and the public. It's really the fault of media companies, because there is so much conflation between the tabloidiness and the gossipiness along with the hard-hitting fact news. And some of this stuff has emerged that now people are losing sight of it. And it's not the public's fault. It's really those who are putting out this information, distributing it. But it's just really important that people really push for media literacy. Because I feel like diversity and inclusion in newsrooms play a role in that too. Because if you're in rooms where you don't have Black people saying, hey, that's not true. Hey, that's a stereotype. Hey, that's problematic to do that. Then the powers that be will continue to push out images and information that are going to be slanted and biased, because people have bias by default.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the times people don't understand that, just like anything else, media is a business. It's about making that money, and they see their market share decreasing because of tabloids. Then they're going to do things that to compete with that and to get that back. And then the repetition of media. If you go back into, just a couple of years ago, right? We only had news certain parts of the day. It wasn't this cycle all day long of repetitiveness. Not even nothing new. I can see if they did something new on each, airing, but they're not. It's the same thing. So most definitely. But you guys, let's take another break, because I want to get back and I want to think, what's next for you? Where do you want to go? You've reached this level. Now, what is your aspirations for your life? You know what I mean? So you guys stay with us. We'll be right back.
Bennett Wilson has the world at his fingertips. One of the top basketball players in New York State, he is destined to lead Mount Vernon High to the state championship for the first time. Many of the nation's top colleges are already reaching out, eager to sign him to their roster. Still young, Bennett is seduced by the promise of fame and fortune. Yet, all is not as it appears. Bennett's life is plagued with strife and conflict. The oldest of three, he has grown up with his single mother in the tough inner city projects of Mount Vernon. He knows his only ticket to freedom is through academics and basketball. Bennett's dreams come to a screeching halt when he learns his sick mother has fallen far behind on her rent and is threatened with eviction. Will Bennett finally succumb to a life he's avoided, and if he does, what will it cost? My Friend, My Hero, which celebrates its 25th year in print, is the first in the acclaimed The Hero book series by author Gerald LaVon Hoover.
Welcome back, you guys. Okay, so before we left, we were talking about media and everything else, and it is what it is. Just, you guys know it's a business, know they're about making money, know everything you read on social media is not true. You got to go back and fact check for yourself and compare sources. Now, with that being said, Ernest, you have gotten all of these awards, all of these accolades. You're sought after. You write for various places, you know, do columns, whatever the case may be. With that being said, what is next? What do you want to do?
I mean, I'm writing a book. I have a book coming out soon that I'm focused on writing. You know, I have my podcast that's continuing to do its thing, and I'm still writing and editing and leading other various publications. Like, my mentality has always been that opportunities like this is just to focus on like what I'm doing. Like, everyone always asks me every like 2 years or year, what's next? What's this? What I'm doing now, I'm doing what I want to do. Like, I have my company, Ernest Me Empire LLC, and it's just really what I'm currently doing, but better. I said this 3 years ago when I did an interview. Someone asked me the same question. I said the things that I'm doing right now, it just on a higher level. So 3 years ago, I was writing at Philly Mag as a writer at large. Now I'm writing at Philadelphia Magazine as an editor at large. It's better. Couple years ago, I was doing Earnestly Speaking as a TV show on Philly Cam, a local show. Now I'm doing it as a podcast that's on Apple, that's on the charts. So it's just all about elevating the things I'm currently doing and things that I never considered doing. Right? I was in love with magazine writing and writing long form. Now I'm writing an adult nonfiction book. Just what I'm doing currently, just taking it to the next level. So whatever comes from this book, that could be several projects that will open itself up. It's just going to be taking it to the next level. That's how I look at it. I try not to, you know, put this random pressure on myself, but just more like whatever I'm doing right now is going to be better in 2 years.
Yeah.
Full bet.
So simply about just leveling up and going through the doors as they open to experience new things at different levels, but still in this realm of what you love.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, most definitely. Now, let me ask you, for those who don't know, how do people find, like, follow, read, subscribe to, you know, your podcast? You just said it was on Apple, but other things. I know you have a website. Do you want to give that out?
Yeah, ErnestOwens.com, ErnestOwens.com, ErnestOwens.com. Honestly, I know this sounds corny, but I just got to keep it real. I am easy to find on the internet. Just a quick Google search, and boom. I just Google. I'm on Google. Find me on social. I'm very accessible. People can find me on the internet. I'm there.
And I'll attest to that. You are very easy. You know, some people you Google, you're like, where is this page, Chad? No.
I mean, listen, that was one of the first things I did early in my career. And I learned from a mentor of mine who I hold in such high regard, Sarah Glover. It was just to get the website. I got my website made in 2013, got my domain before I was Ernest Owens, whatever that means to people. But I got the domain. My handles across the board was at Mr. Ernest Owens. I found out very early that Ernest Owens had been taken on most of these handles, but Mr. Ernest Owens wasn't. So I got the domains for that. I got the handles, and I just began to just build my brand very big on there. So I maintain these accounts. I update my accounts. My website stays updated. My social media accounts are always, you know, populated with good content, fresh content, timely content, so that in the event that people want to find me or reach me, it's not hard for them to. You found
Yeah.
like that's how we connected,
Yeah.
just making myself available in that kind of way for great opportunities and really great programs like this. So thank you for having me on.
Most definitely. And that's your tidbit for today, you guys. You guys, Google yourself, see what comes up, see what page you're on. Start to put stuff out there to build your brand early on, to be able to say, okay, this is who I am, go Google me. It's a powerful statement to be able to say. But as always, you guys, I got to take a moment out to thank my sponsors. Favorite one man sharpens another, Dance Solutions Youth Outreach. You guys, Merlin Prep Academy, and of course, my networks, WBGR, Power 904, Total Entertainment Radio, DMR Radio. You guys, I got nothing but love for you. Ernest, thank you for taking a moment out today and spending it with me.
Thank you so much. This is a great show.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. All right, you guys, until next time, nothing but love for you. Go to my website to figure out when I'm airing on all of the different stations. That is Nysia, NYSIA, Carter, CARTER. I hope you guys can spell that. .com. See you next time. Bye.